we had raised $33,000 in cash and over $4,000 in pledges. We were jubilant. Everyone who gave over $100 got their picture in a local paper, thanks to the editor of that paper, John Simpson, who was as determined as we were that the new library would happen. Through 1983, until the project was completed in 1985, the fundraising went on and on. Nancy Latimer worked on the project on an almost daily basis. I was devoting most of my time to fundraising also. Every 2 to 3 weeks, we had another fundraising project to work on. Fundraisers included helping a Girl Scout troop with a candy sale, organizing a contest between school classes to see which class could raise the most money, calling people to help with bake sales, having bake sales, selling raffle tickets, selling plants, and visiting with prospective donors, accepting checks from prospective donors and scheduling pictures for the paper, planning dances, and on and on and on. John Simpson continued to publish pictures of our contributors in his newspaper. There was a library story almost every week. We tried to keep the momentum for our cause up. We wrote thank you notes to everyone who contributed to our cause. The Friends group doubled in size during this period and was very active. If 4 ladies, but nothing but a dream, could raise $3,300 in 2 years on a cause that was not well publicized, think what 9 ladies, including Nancy and myself, could do with a cause that had become very public and that captured the imagination of a large audience. We held dances, flea markets, chili suppers, and sold lots of baked goods. The ladies learned early that their delicious baked goods sold like wildfire in a town that had no bakery. The cause became more and more popular. People were coming to the library steadily with checks of $5 to $5,000. Some people brought items to be raffled or sold. One lady donated an Afghan to the cause that we sold for as a raffle item, and I think we made over $500 on that particular item. We continued to write grant requests to several foundations for funding for a new library, and we were rejected by all of them. Throughout this project, we periodically sent grant requests to major foundations, and we were regularly turned down. First, we were told that we didn't have enough local seed money. Until we raised a substantial amount of funds, we were told, we would not be taken seriously. After a substantial amount was raised, we were still turned down. We were then told that funding for libraries had dried up. It was beginning to look to us like no major foundations would provide us funding, private foundations anyway. But we were encouraged by the Texas State Library to apply for a library services and construction grant. The library officials were helpful and encouraging. We applied for a grant for $100,000, and Nancy and I crossed our fingers and hoped this would be the miracle that we needed. In August of 1983, Hurricane Alicia did major damage to our library. Floors, ceiling, and what little furniture we had were all damaged by water. As the hurricane slowly subsided, my husband and myself were able to get up on the roof and actually repair it. We found 1/3 of the roof gone, and the books were exposed to rain and wind. The library was without electricity for 2 weeks, and we lost 972 books from the rain and mildew. During that time, my 2 assistants and myself tore out carpet and wet insulation and tried to save any books that we could. We really had no choice than to do the work ourselves, as the entire city was heavily damaged and everybody was pretty much on their own. With my family's help, we patched the building together the best we could to make it usable, but we tried to save FEMA and insurance monies for the new building. The newspapers ran pictures of the damage, and many people were to tell me that they thought we would never recover. They thought that this would really be the end of the library. These were very dark times, and the library was forced to close its doors. And it was on one of those dark days that we were working on repairs for the building that we received a letter from the Texas State Library informing us that we had received the $100,000 matching grant funds. We had $8,500,000 by that time, and in order to make the match, we asked the city for an additional $20,000 in revenue sharing funds, and we received it by a 2-3 vote. And it was the only money that we ever received from the city or asked for. And through 1984, the generous people continued to come forward. The Chamber of Commerce gave us a portion of their proceeds from their yearly festival for 3 consecutive years, totaling $12,500 by 1985. The generosity continued to flow forth. Nancy Latimer's mother, Ursula, bought the 2 beautifully wooded lots that adjoin our library and deeded them to the library. Miss Genevieve's niece donated the house that Miss Genevieve had occupied for so many years to the library. Miss Genevieve had died in 1982, and Miss Genevieve's niece, Vera Miller, donated her house to the library, and it was moved to the adjoining lot that Miss Latimer had purchased to be used as a museum. The small donations continued to flow in. It was during that period that we received a $20,000 donation from a local bank, but the small ones also continued to come. Late in 1984, we decided that it was time to go out for construction bids, and on December 7, 1984, we received 4 bids, and we accepted the very low bid from Loomis & Loomis for $252,000, and the groundbreaking ceremonies were held February 9, 1985. The new library was becoming a reality. But there was still more money to raise, $22,000. Nancy and I were determined to have the funding complete by the time the building was built. Final hopes of foundation help vanished during that year. The only recourse was a continuation of some of the previously successful methods. This included a final mail-out appeal to the public, personal visits to area businesses. Other fundraising activities included a barbecue chicken sale, flea markets, and a shrimp gumbo dinner. Nancy was able to get a telephone system donated, as well as grass for landscaping, something that we did not have included in the bid that we received, so we were very happy to get the grass. In summer, there was still an additional $10,000 for some extras we would now be able to add. And I can remember the final day of fundraising. We were down to $700, and the building would actually be paid for. We had been on the phone all that week, and were able to get a few donations. One I remember from a food establishment. Nancy and I got in her car for our final visit to businesses. I can't remember all the businesses, but by the end of the day we were down to less than $100. We were totally at loss as to who to visit next. We went back to the library and got out the fine money, the change that was in the drawer, and rolled it, and we were able to go over the top. The final dollars were raised 5 days before the final payment to the contractor was due. The library had raised $274,000 and was debt-free. We moved into the new building on September 7, 1985. Approximately 600 citizens attended the reception on September 21st, 1985. The library project that began in 1979 reached a successful conclusion. The new library building continues to be a great source of pride for the people of Hitchcock. Many public-spirited citizens participated in making the library a reality. The total cost of the new library was $274,000. Sources of funding